Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, hello and welcome to the hottest rising show in all the globe right here on YouTube and every podcasting platform. We are back with another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise, yes indeed, clap it up, get excited wherever you are. We're here, we're live, we got so much in store to talk about today as we have a action-packed show for you today, as we do every single week right here on YouTube and on every podcasting platform imaginable. Absolutely. And brother, talk about some shakeups in the world of boxing, specifically more than anything. We've had some news, call-outs, let alone some negotiations happening now that essentially paint the way for good or bad situations for two very prominent fighters. And as you see in the title and thumbnail, we got essentially Boots and Teofimo Lopez. My gosh, a shock to us all. Is this actually going to happen? Are you kidding me? Is this actually going to be the thing that we see? And is it good or is it still a bad fight for Jaron Ennis? But not for the reason that you may feel. But either way, we're going to talk about that and much more, as well as Navarrete knocking out Oscar Valdez in the fight. I predicted what this means for Navarrete going forward and breaking down the fight as a whole, as well as some other stuff going on, Richardson, Hitchens, and much more. We got a whole smorgasbord of stuff to discuss on today, so thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and please, if you would, leave a like on the video. Comment your thoughts and opinions, and in the chat below, and just in the comments when you rewatch this. Subscribe to the channel, and share the show with everybody that you know, so we can keep on building up this empire together. We are still on our way to making this channel the biggest in the globe, one of the hubs of sports media in all the world, not just here in the U.S. Absolutely, and it's all thanks to you and your support that we're able to make this possible. And again, we're available on every podcasting platform. Episodes get uploaded right after, so you can listen, watch, rewatch, go back and fact check me on other shows I've had in the past, and just all around have a good time all day long with my voice surrounding the airways that you listen to. So again, thank you so much for your support. But without further ado, we got some stuff to talk about. We got to jump into the world of sports. Thank you, my pie. Hey, appreciate you coming in. And look, we got it working, yes indeed. I told y'all I was gonna figure this doggone thing out, and now we are here, and we are now able to get it back right. We can get the chats back on the screen. You can see what you're saying, and I can pull up what you're saying. Oh, we can have topics in the base. And again, this is your show as much as it is mine. Later in the show, we're gonna have time for anybody to have any other questions, whatever topics you want to discuss. You bring them to the table. But throughout the show, comment your thoughts and opinions. Give me your concerns. Give me your debates. Oh, we can go where it's a fluid show. We can make shift and change if the conversation gets good. Absolutely. But all that being said, we got a show to do. Thank you, Mapai, for joining back in again. Brother, I'm glad you're a loyal supporter. Absolutely. But we got a show to do, and let's jump right into the action. And since we're talking about boxing, first and foremost, it is time to step into the ring. Oh, yeah. That's right. Ring the bell. Let's get it started. Round one of this show going underway. Get your coffee ready, because we got a lot to discuss. Before we get to the Teofimo Boots rumors and negotiations that were now legitimately happening and verified that happened, we got to talk about action that happened before all of this that happened this weekend with, drinking some coffee real quick, with Emmanuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez, the highly anticipated rematch between the two, who their first fight against each other was indeed phenomenal. Let's not get it twisted. No, it was entertaining. It was fun. It was something that had everybody on pins and needles in terms of what could happen. But it turned into a dominating onslaught by Oscar Valdez. Navarrete genuinely dominating the fight, ending in, again, a unanimous decision. And Valdez showed a whole bunch of heart, but Navarrete was just too much. And we said, if Navarrete doesn't make the changes that needs to be made, throwing that straight right hand, using his jab more, it was going to be the same story. Well, the fight did look different. Valdez did use the things I said to use, but still, it wasn't enough. And we got to see Navarrete do what Navarrete does, and this time in even quicker fashion, and dominate Oscar Valdez and knock the brother out this time. Not just beat him up, but still he survived. No, this brother got him out of there. What was it? Was it within 6 rounds? Just about. But either way, I called it was going to be a knockout. I might have gotten the round wrong, but still, I called it right. I called it right. We are here. And again, this is not a bad loss for Oscar. Because you have to understand, as we break down the fight, going through what actually transpired during this whole affair, you have to understand Oscar Valdez made the correct changes in this fight. Legitimate. Wholeheartedly. Yes, for round 1, got knocked down, absolutely. But started out hot, started out aggressive, was willing and wanted to hold his ground, not allowing Navarrete to force him back and gain momentum. Again, like the juggernaut. Once Navarrete gets going with his punch volume and more so with his forward momentum when he throws his punches, the brother's almost impossible to stop. That has been shown time and time again. But if you are able to stand your ground and legitimately fight back against him, not fight backwards, but instead fight coming forward, meeting him head on, you got an opportunity. And with Oscar Valdez, he did just that. He was standing his ground. He wasn't trying to back up for the majority of the fight. He was still trying to counter, but not to the point that he was overtly just going in and belligerently waiting too long. He tried to mix offensive aggressiveness with still defensive prowess and countering like he did in the last fight. On top of that, he did use his jab. He did use his right hand. He did everything that I wanted him to do to make the fight at least somewhat winnable, to attempt to. But this is a fight that it was just, Navarrete is just too much for Oscar Valdez. That's plain and simple. It's plain and simple. There's no other way to say it. Navarrete is just a perfect match to fight against Oscar. Even when Oscar did everything necessary to mitigate what Navarrete wants to do. And if anything, Oscar Valdez looked sharper. Oscar Valdez looked faster. Oscar Valdez looked great in this fight in terms of from a physical and performance standpoint. And if anything, Navarrete for the first half of the fight, or at least for the first 4 or 5 rounds, he looked slow. He looked legitimately, I'm not going to say out of shape, because he always looks in that shape, similar to David Benavidez. He looks like a bag of milk, but the brother can fight like who knows what. He's incredible, but it's just the physique didn't look good. But the speed of his fighting matched the physique in this fight with Navarrete. And that's something that we never saw with Navarrete. But then as the fight went on, you saw him pick up, you saw him get back in with him, and you saw him legitimately just take over. And the biggest thing that got Oscar Valdez essentially knocked out, and why it didn't go the same way that it was the last fight, where even though he lost, it went to a decision. When you're fighting somebody like Navarrete, you have to, again, meeting them on the inside. That's the best way to win, especially if you're a smaller fighter. Unlike Liam Wilson, who was able to counter him and had the length to reach him. Valdez doesn't have that. So you have to force your way in. Understand it. Now, with that being the case, the risk of you doing that makes it so you are putting yourself in harm's way in order to get yourself out of harm's way. The only way to make it so that Oscar could inevitably succeed is to put himself in the most danger possible, which was meeting Navarrete head on. And that's exactly what he did. And he was having some success. But even still, while this was individually looking like a better performance from the perspective of he did the stuff that I wanted him to do. When you put at risk like that against a great fighter and you force yourself to have to put yourself in the fire in order to get the best out of a situation, this is what can happen. You can get destroyed in quicker fashion. And that was one of the things that got him out of it. It was the game plan. While it was necessary, it was incredibly high risk. And the reward, while it's high, wasn't likely. But he had to do it. But the second thing that got him in trouble, and why this again, was a worse situation than the last fight, was because of the fact that Oscar Valdez is a hooker, loves throwing hooks. But the issue is when the brother throws hooks, the man continually was missing once he got within range. And that was the biggest problem. Same thing in the last fight. When he got in range with Navarrete, the man would not be able to hit Navarrete, even though Navarrete was right in front of him. And it's because throwing hooks against Navarrete on the inside, if you were Oscar Valdez, just wasn't working. He did what he needed to do with using his jab and straight right to land on Navarrete, get on the inside and actually do some damage, or at least land some shots. And he was going to the body. But once he got within range, then relegated himself to, again, doing what he does best, throwing hooks, which understandable. But when it came to, he wasn't having success because he wasn't hitting the brother. And all the work he did to get on the inside came to no avail because he couldn't land those fast, hard shots. It was a situation where if he had done if he had kept with the game plan of not just using straights and jabs to work his way on the inside, but use straights and jabs once he got on the inside to actually score and continually land, that could have set up the hooks to be able to actually be viable. Breaking down the guard, breaking down the body and the damage of Navarrete to where now he can't lean back anymore. Now he's expecting straights, and when the hook does come, it'll land. But when it came to him throwing those hooks, that's the thing that ultimately got him out of there. Constantly missing hooks, just like he did in the first fight. Constantly, even when he got within range, throwing the punch that wasn't working. But if he had thrown the straight right that was working when he was walking in on the inside, if he had thrown that punch once he did get in range and in the sweet spot that he wanted to throw, that could have been at least a difference maker. That may have seen some more success. That may have seen him actually land some shots that would have essentially mitigated Navarrete's willingness to throw even more, even though we knew Navarrete just knew he could take whatever Valdez threw at him. Those are the two biggest things. And one more thing that also I almost forgot. Stylistically, it was just nightmare. That's what it was. This was an outright nightmare. Nightmare for Oscar Valdez. And akin to George Foreman and Joe Frazier. That's what this was. George Foreman, Joe Frazier. Akin to that, that's what we saw on the weekend. Navarrete and Oscar Valdez are just a horrible matchup, specifically for Valdez. Valdez is a great fighter, a phenomenal talent, a warrior to the truest extent. But the man just can't beat this guy. He can't do it. The style just doesn't work. The unpredictability, the sweeping the floor when he throws an uppercut, which was also landing all night long. Inevitably, he got knocked out with a body shot on the ropes that he couldn't see coming because of the fact he was sweeping the floor. Oscar Valdez and Emmanuel Navarrete are just a match made in an absolute nightmare. There's no way that Oscar Valdez can beat Navarrete just because stylistically it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Similar to George Foreman and Joe Frazier. As great as Joe Frazier is, Foreman stylistically was just a nightmare matchup. And Frazier is an all-time great heavyweight. There are not many people in boxing history that could beat Frazier. The only people that really beat Frazier are Ali and Foreman. That's literally it. If I remember correctly, I believe he's got, 4 losses, 32-4 on his career, 28-29 KOs, one of the most devastating heavyweights in history, as well as one of the smaller heavyweights in history. And still, the man only got beat by Ali, arguably the greatest heavyweight in history, if not the greatest outright. Not because of his moniker, but because of him. But also, George Foreman, one of the heaviest punchers in heavyweight history, in boxing history. And one of the biggest people in boxing history in terms from a just everything perspective. It was just a nightmare to go against Joe Frazier to go against somebody like Foreman. Same thing with Valdez and Navarrete. It just didn't work. It can't work. It's too much of it's a perfect match for Navarrete to do whatever he wants. And for Valdez, it's a nightmare scenario to where everything I do can't work. Not against this guy. It's not against this man. Yeah, it's a crying shame. And also, that leads us to our next point. When it comes to matchups, Navarrete's looking good. Navarrete's looking great. Navarrete's looking at a situation where we got real opportunities to see him grow. Especially now that he's at, what was it, 130, 135? Just about. Now, hey, love to see the conversation of him and Tank, him and Shakur, him and those types of other fighters, specifically him and Shakur. That would be interesting. Incredibly interesting. I would love to see that fight if that did happen. But this man's starting to become a real threat to a lot of people. A lot of people that I don't know, even if they're better boxers. The unpredictability of Navarrete and his style and the seemingly granted ability to take whatever somebody throws at him. Now, that could be a situation where we're looking at people are matchups that we think would just be outright be able to stop him. Might not be able to. And you may just be surprised. Might just be surprised indeed. But again, Even though with all that out the way, now let's talk about the big match, the big thing of the day. Oh, and by the way, Mapai, what's going on? Let's see. Am I watching NHL? No, I don't watch the NHL. Again, respect to everybody who does play hockey and who watches hockey. It's a phenomenal sport, not just because of the fights, because of legitimate action. Again, was it Ovechkin? I'm at least keeping an eye on him to see whether or not he's going to be the guy to take over Gretzky. I don't think it's going to happen, but he was still highly entertaining to watch that run. But nah, I don't watch the NHL. I am basketball. I am American football, and I am boxing, specifically the NBA and boxing. Those are my two favorite sports. But hey, brother, what's going on? Bet on Black, how you doing? What's up with you? Glad you could come in onto the show. Thank you for joining in. We're getting ready to talk about Boots versus Teo, the talk that's going on, and whether or not this is a good or bad fight for Boots Ennis, not because of stylistically, but because of the nature of why this fight's happening, which I got some problems, but let's see what you got to say. Let's see. Well, Simba, but I wish I stayed in chat, but I'm at work on break. But hey, shout out to your channel. Appreciate it, man. Don't worry. You can listen. You can come through. You ain't even got to chat. As long as you're here listening to the show, that's all you need to do. Because trust me, we got some stuff to talk about, and we're going to give you the unbiased take. Sure, we're going to have some fun. We're going to laugh, absolutely. But I guarantee you this, buddy, you can't go wrong listening to this show. Absolutely the hottest show in all the globe right here, the Welch Report. And thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. But now, let's get to the big action of the show and the biggest topic of the day. Talking about Teo versus Jaron Boots Ennis. That's right. If you didn't know, in the words of the road dog Jesse James, we got essentially what would normally be perceived as a dream fight. Teofimo Lopez versus Jaron Boots Ennis is in talks to actively happen. Oh yes, indeed. It's on the way, potentially. It's on the horizon. In this situation where people are saying, hey, it looks on paper, looks like a great fight. Oh, don't get me wrong. Teofimo Lopez, I believe former, or arguably undisputed champion. There's still some meddling stuff. I'm still trying to figure out whether he is or is not undisputed. But either way, one of the most accomplished 135ers, moved up to 140, still accomplished, still dominant, beat Jack Catterall, has beaten just about everybody, beaten all the big names that's been put in his way, faced off against, and hasn't reached it, rematch Kambosos, but not most likely. We all know if he fought him again, he would knock him out. And so he's been one of the biggest stars in this sport, wholeheartedly, no question about it. Now, going up against Jaron Boots Ennis, one of the other biggest rising stars, rather not rising stars, one of the biggest stars in the sport, and one of the best talents in the world, objectively, at least in my opinion. Now those two are negotiating the clash against each other. This is exciting, right? Hold on. No, that wrong. There we go. It's exciting, ain't it? Ain't it incredible? Ain't it? Don't it just get you going? Don't just make you salivate to see the matchup? Normally, yeah. But in this situation, no. Because I have a problem with this. Genuinely, I do. And it's not because the fight can't be good, but it's because of the context surrounding this fight. See, here's the problem with this. This is another situation where Boots is backing out of his word. That's what this is. Jaron Ennis is again backing away from what he said he was going to do. That's the way he is not doing what he said he wanted to do. It is further running away from the test that we as fans are looking for him to take. That is the logical next step. And when I say logical, illogical next steps, there's good and bad. Illogical is like, again, we got, let's say, Terrence Crawford trying to fight Canelo Alvarez. Now, if he gets that fight, he's testing himself. Oh my gosh, that would be incredible. If that's his aspirations. Pacquiao moving up 8 weight divisions, that's illogical. That's incredible. Henry Armstrong being a 2-division champion at the same time. That's incredible. That is illogical from a standpoint of this shouldn't be happening, but it is. And you attempting it is incredible. But also illogical on the bad is now you making a decision where it's illogical because of the understood next step that even if it wasn't as big as, again, jumping up multiple weight divisions, it at least makes sense of, hey, for where your stardom is at, this is who you should be going after now. Well, this is your new frame of operation because of the status and where your career is currently. This is what makes sense. This is still great competition. This will elevate. And you don't take that for lesser competition. That's illogical in a bad way. And it's just a problem. And we have already covered how Boots ducked Vergil Ortiz. There was no reason why that fight shouldn't happen. And he said he wanted to go move up to 154. And so the timeline of his words now going up to this Teofimo Lopez situation is a problem. It's a major problem. Because let's look at it this way. He beat Jokic in a worse fight than he did in the first time around. Couldn't knock him out, got pieced up. The same problems I said that he's had all the time in the David Avanesian fight is the same problems he's had now. Same problems he had in the first Jokic fight. Same problems he's got now. But he beat him. Said in the ring he wanted to move up to 154. He needs to move up to 154 to be the best that he can be. Needs to move up to super welterweight. His words, not mine. After that, then Vergil Ortiz is on the table. He doesn't take it. Now, I believe, is it Xander Zayas that's looking to fight him now? But either way, he doesn't do it. We call him a duck. It's right. It is a duck because you said you wanted something you didn't. Now you're going in and fighting Teofimo Lopez. But hold on, wait a minute now. The other side of the coin is the fact that you said you wanted to fight at 147 to unify the division. You said you wanted to fight at 147 to make the fight or to unify or potentially become undisputed. You said you would stay at your weight division to go after another champion in said division. Get all the belts that you can, or at least get another one. That's what you said. Now, you're at 147, who is indeed a champion, but you didn't win it in the ring. You were given it by a belt commission, which again, continually, I'm not going to hold it against you. You defended it against Jokic in the bad performance. You said you wanted to move up. You said you wanted competition. You said you wanted Boots. You said you wanted Bud Crawford as your ultimate goal. You get the opportunity to face off against the person that will put you to that goal in Vergil Ortiz. You don't take it. You didn't say you're staying at 147 to unify the division. Now, you are not even fighting another person with a belt. You're fighting Teofimo Lopez, who is, understand, the other side of the context. Teo said he wanted to move up. Teo put out a hit list. Teo said he wants to fight Terrence Crawford, Gervonta Davis, and Jaron Ennis. Those were the three people. He said that last week on the Navarrete Oscar Valdez card. So, he said he wants to move up and take challenges. If you can't get Tank, well, Crawford, big fish, let me go get him. And Boots, another big fish, let me go get him too. Talked about wanting to move up potentially to 147 in the past as well. So, at least from what I can remember. So, for him, it tracks. For you, you're regressing. And so it's a situation where this is a problem for Boots, and it's a great fight for Teofimo Lopez, for what it means to them respectfully. Teofimo Lopez and Boots are on a collision course, but it's a collision of not head on. Boots is backing in to Teo while Teo is driving forward into Boots. That's what's happening. Boots is not taking the test that he should have and is not fighting the competition that he's supposed to fight. Not even keeping up to his word that he said he would do. And Teo is trying to elevate and fight, again, fight above a weight class and division, testing himself. And so for Teo, phenomenal. Looking to keep on rising and climbing, looking to keep on achieving, looking to keep on testing himself against one of the best boxers in the world in terms of a talent perspective, and Boots Ennis, no problem with him. But with Boots, what are you doing? What's the problem? Why is it that you are taking the stance and not making the conscious effort to fight the people that are indeed right in front of you and make sense for the very notion of end goal that you said to the fans, to the public, to your coaches, to media, continually, that you were saying that you wanted to happen? If you want to be at 154, why did you not take the fight with Vergil Ortiz? And now why are you bringing up somebody from 140? And this is still a problem. Just like when we got on Tank fighting Lamont Roach, bringing him up from 130 to 135, he has no business doing that. With Boots Ennis, he has no business doing it. None. None whatsoever. Because of what he said specifically. It would be different if Boots went Boots unified. Boots kept fighting at 147, kept at least that part of his word, and continued to be dominant at the division, even if it's scarce at this point in time. And then Teofimo moves up on his own. Teofimo comes up and dominates or gets in the running. Okay, yeah, give me a shot. I'm in this division now, and now you fight him. That's a different That's a different context entirely. That's a different notion entirely. That is a different level entirely of competition that you're fighting against. That's a different context of who you're fighting. That's okay. This isn't. You stayed at 147 to negotiate with a current 140-pound champion, even though it's Teofimo Lopez and he's great. Don't get me wrong. But that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not what you should have done. That's not what you said you wanted to do. Who are you? What does Teo give to you? What does he give to you? What does Teofimo Lopez give to you genuinely at right now? When the main thing is Terrence Crawford. If that's your goal, you want to get there, why are you not fighting at 154 to beat Virgil Ortiz to get a shot? To get a shot at Boots. You beat Virgil Ortiz, there's nothing holding him back. Nothing. There isn't. You can force your way into the fight that you want, but now you're regressing. You're backpedaling. You're doing the very thing that we got on Tank for. Fighting below your talent. This is not disrespect to Teo. We know what Teo is. And I continue to say, I think Teo can compete at 147. Let's see him at 147. But the problem is, he's not at 147 right now. He is currently still a 140-pounder. And currently, Boots already ducked competition that was where he wanted to be, where he said he needed to be. You can't say that you need to do something to better yourself and then you go to the very thing that doesn't better you. Like, no. That's objectively, that is wrong. Objectively, that's a problem. There is no saving grace that we can put. There is no good context we can say. The only good thing you can say about it is it would be an entertaining fight. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. No doubt in my mind. But that doesn't change the fact that while it may be entertaining, while it will be fun, the problem is it's not what you're supposed to do. This is again, Boots ducking the competition that he said that he wanted. You asked for this type of smoke and said that you needed this for your own body. You said that you couldn't perform at your best if it wasn't for the weight. Because of 147, you said you were hindered. Because of 147 pounds, you said you were being held back in your ability to do everything you wanted to do. The reason why you couldn't knock out Sugar John was because you were at 147. The reason why you struggled against Sugar John the second time was because you were at 147. The reason why you are, in your own eyes, diminished in your ability to produce in dominating knockout performances, the reason why you struggled against David Evanesian, per what you said now, is because of 147. When I say struggled, I mean there was some, again, the problems that we saw shouldn't have been problems, but they were. This is all because of you saying you were done in the division. And now not only are you staying, but the very reason that you said you would stay, which was unified, you're backtracking going up against somebody who, as much of a name as he is, as much of a talent as he is, brings nothing to the table, of the very table that you said you were only looking for. Titles at your division, or titles and ultimately Terrence Crawford at the next. It's a crying shame. It's a crying shame. And it's a problem because the fight itself looks like a great fight on paper. Excuse me. It looks like a phenomenal fight on paper. No question. But when you look at the grand scope and you take a step back and say, Boots, what you perpetuated and what you actively said to the world versus what you've done and what you're actively doing, this doesn't qualify as a great fight for you with what is expected of you, which is what you said you expected of yourself. And so when we call you all this stuff, when we get mad and get upset, when we get hot at Boots for being somebody who isn't producing at the level that he should be, it's because of the fact that you yourself object outside the ring are continuing to push the path to make yourself great. And by outside the ring, I'm not saying in training and I'm talking about he's taking care of himself outside the ring in training. But in terms of making moves so that who you fight inside the ring is worthy of where you are right now and more so lines up with what you said you wanted, now you're not doing that. And that's a bold face. That's a bold face spit in the face to everybody who's been rooting for you. To everybody. Again, why am I not talking about Teofimo Lopez in this whole diatribe? But because of the fact that this is great for Teo. This is great because if we see Teo move up to 147 and beat Boots, oh my gosh. My goodness. Are you kidding me? That would be incredible. He would be one of the bigger stars, even bigger of a star than he is right now. We're putting that brother now in different conversations of who can he beat now. That's great for him. But it tracked for him because of what he said he wanted to do. And he called out the very people that he wants to make moves with. And he's looking to up his legacy, up his name, up his caliber of talent that he's fighting against. No problem there. When it comes to you, Boots, you're moving backwards from what you should have been. Moving from Virgil Ortiz to Teofimo Lopez is not a great flex. The fight may look great on paper, but the full context is a problem. It's a major problem. And there's nothing you can do to defend it. Nothing. More and more, your stock's dipping. When you were at the heights of being you and Terrence Crawford, synonymous. That was it. You and Terrence were synonymous with each other. Just like Canelo and David Benavidez. Just like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. You all were inseparable in the minds of fans of who's going to beat who. The competition within each other was something that everybody wanted to see. Everybody said that they wanted to do. Everybody wanted a piece of the pie. Everybody wanted to pay to see that fight happen. Everybody wanted an opportunity to truly go and see what's going to be the end-all be-all of this inevitable clash. And now we're looking and saying, well, what do you want? What do you want? And let's go down the rabbit hole even further. Show we still got some more stuff in the show, but let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit more. If this negotiation falls apart, well, what's the next move now? If this negotiation falls apart, falls asunder, and it doesn't go through, what's next? Boots, what else do you want at this point? Because at some level, you got to have a challenge. And the challenge was put in front of you with Virgil. You didn't take it. Now with Teo, if this falls flat, are you going to then revert back to, okay, let me unify? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to sit and meddle? Or is it potentially you won't even fight a champion? You'll just fight another fodder fighter. And this fight, Shukjan, was supposed to be the tune-up fight for a big fight. We're looking at a situation where we don't know what's next to come. Because this man's flip-flopping every single time we see him go and conversate about what exactly he wants for his career. What is it that he's looking for? We don't know. Because the very moves that he said that he wants to make, he's not making. And if he's not making them when they're put, and this is different from David Benavidez. Because with David Benavidez, the end goal that he was looking for was denied from him. He wasn't able to get Canelo because, one, the belt commissions were supporting Canelo in holding the title and not fighting David Benavidez as a mandatory. Genuine. And we've covered this on the show multiple times. And we went through a whole diatribe. We went through the very bylaws and the very was it Article 3 section? Was it section 2 or section? It was either section 1, 3, or 4. One of them. Go to the WBC website, and they got a whole rules and regulations page. We went through it. I went through it and brought it up on this show. Who is in charge of making mandatories? It is not the fighter. It is the belt commission. They make them, and they didn't make David Benavidez up until he finally moved up to 175. We went through all of this. It's somewhere in the third article of the page. You can look it up. It's right there for anybody to read. He was denied of his ability by the Belt Commission to get his understood and deserved responsibility and opportunity to fight Canelo. But he still kept on doing everything to make that fight happen as much as possible. And when he said he wanted to make his own way, what did he do? Moved up to 175. Now fighting David Morrell. Now fought Gvozdyk, who almost beat Archie Beterbiev before getting knocked out. So we're looking at a situation where the brother continually, that man's doing everything that you need to do. And if he can't get what he wants to get, that's different. You were hand given this opportunity on the biggest fight card. It could have been you versus Virgil Ortiz on Boots or on the, I believe, February 22nd. On that mega card. Jay Will, what's up? How you doing, brother? Thank you for tuning in. And hey, we got it working now. Oh yeah. I told you we were gonna get this fixed, and lo and behold, it's fixed now. Chats galore. I can bring up everybody now. Yes, indeed. Oh yeah. Told you we're making this show bigger and better. Thank you for tuning in, Jay Will. Appreciate you coming in. We're talking about the ramifications of Boots now in negotiations with Teofimo Lopez. Instead of, again, doing what he said he was going to do, what he wanted to do, which was fight at 154 or stay at 147 and unify the division. Those were his own sentiments. And now he's negotiating with Teofimo Lopez. I find that as a part, and I would love to hear from you all. Anybody in the chat, anybody who's joining in and tuning in, what do you think about this whole thing? Because I got problems. I got issues. I got major issues with this whole thing. And what I was getting at, I believe, let me see if I can remember what I was getting. Oh, and also, please, if you can, please like the channel, like the video, leave a like right now so we can get more people in. Last time we had about 500 views on this show, one of my most successful stream to date, absolutely. And so the likes do help. The likes help push this show to the masses to get everybody wanting to come in and see what we got going on this channel. So please share the stream, share the show, like the stream, and hey, stick around, because trust me, we got a bunch to talk about, absolutely. But when it comes to Boots versus Teal, my issue is the fact that with what you said you wanted to do and what you're doing right now are not correct. They're not right. You're backing into, you and Tio, like I just said, are on a collision course, but it's not a head-on collision with both of you running at each other. Boots is backing up and Tio is moving forward. It's a crash, not a collision. Boots said he wanted to move up to 154 after Shukajan. Boots said that he was intentionally not able to be the same fighter due to the fact that the man wasn't able to perform at his best when he fought against Shukajan. His body couldn't take 154 or 147, comfortably to be able to fight at the peak of his powers. He said he needed 154, was offered Virgil Ortiz for, I believe, February 22nd. It could have been him on one of the biggest fight cards of the year. One of the greatest of all time, objectively. He could have been on that card. And he denied it. Then he says he wants to stay at 147 to fight and unify titles with the division, regardless of the fact that the division may be scarce at this point in time with big name talent. It's still, you said you wanted to unify. And now, you're not doing that either. And you're negotiating with somebody who's 140. This is a problem. This is a problem. And we got on this with Tank too. This fight may be on paper, and it is more competitive and more entertaining if it goes through than what we see with Lamont Roach and Tank Davis. Objectively, yes, this is a better matchup, but the same problem is still the same problem. We still got to hold fighters' feet to the fire. I don't care who you are. That's what we got to do. Everybody, a fan or a hater, you got to make sure that you keep the same energy for anybody. And this is the same problem. Boots is somebody who is doing the same thing Tank is doing. You have no business fighting somebody from 140. And I respect that it's Teal. And Teal's a great fighter. I said that Teal is able to fight at 147. I've said it. But the context of this whole thing is the fact that with Teofimo Lopez, if it was a situation where he naturally moved up, he already called out the three names: Boots, Tank and Terrence Crawford. If he naturally moved up on his own, let's say Boots stayed at 147, went to unify like he said he wanted to do. Then Teofimo came up to 147 on his own volition and earned a shot to fight him. We have no problem. We have none whatsoever. I still think even now, Teo and Boots is a great fight currently because of the fighter that Teo is. But that doesn't change the fact that the context around it all is a problem because it's the same problem that Boots is having. Or excuse me, the same problem that Tank is having. You're fighting below where you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be fighting a 140-pounder. You're supposed to be fighting Virgil Ortiz. You're supposed to be unifying right now at 147. If you say you want to unify, what in the world does Teo bring to the table? He is not a champion at Super Welterweight. He's not a champion at 154. Yes, he has a resume. Don't get me wrong. He's a bigger name. No question about it. But when it comes to what he brings, what you said that you want to do, this is objectively against the very thing that not only you said that you needed, but we as fans are saying, go do it. It's preposterous. It's preposterous. You mean to tell me, and again, it would have been an easy fight. But you mean to tell me that with what we saw right now, with Richardson Hitchens, who beat Liam Poirier, which again, we'll talk about. We'll talk about that briefly. With Richardson Hitchens beating Liam Poirier to be a 140-pound champion, you could have fought him. And even though we knew you would have dominated, it still would have been, you could have at least stuck to your word. Stick to your word. Your word is the bare minimum. That's all we're asking for. Because at this stage in your career, you are 32-0. 28 KOs. You were synonymous with Terrence Crawford, and now we're calling you a duck, and genuinely somebody that we're questioning, do you really think you could compete with the best of the best? And we weren't having that conversation. It's frustrating when a man this great is being this much of a problem to his own career. What do you want? That's the question that we're asking. What do you want, and what is your actual confidence in yourself and in your ability? Because everything that you're doing right now leads me to say this is a problem of how you view yourself compared to everybody else that is either at or above your level. Because when you get the opportunity to properly test yourself against the people that would validate what your talent is, and you don't take it, when it's a no-brainer to the ultimate goal that you say that you want to do, which is Terrence Crawford, and then with the alternative that you say that you are going to do, backtrack, it makes us all look at you and say, sir, what are you? And who are you? And what did you do with the Boots Ennis that we were just talking about? Who is this imposter that is not who we were talking about for the past 10 years? This is not the man that we were saying was the best opposition for Terrence Crawford. This is not the man that we were saying could run the table just like Terrence Crawford. This is not the man that we were saying is comparable to some of the greatest talent in the world today. This is not the man that we were saying objectively talent for talent is top 5. You could have that argument from a physical standpoint and a raw talent perspective. This is not that same man. And because of that, we have to question who you are and what you really want. Where is your actual goal? Because when you get an opportunity for that goal and you don't take it, you look like somebody that is genuinely messing up and sabotaging your own rise. When you said you weren't getting the respect that you deserve, it's a preposterous thing. It's ridiculous. It makes me so upset. It is laughable, utterly hysterical that this is what we're talking about. This should not be a conversation that we're having. This shouldn't be a genuine thing that we're looking and saying, this is a problem. This shouldn't be. I should be right now breaking down Boots versus Virgil Ortiz. Or if anything, Boots versus anybody at 147. I should. We should be hearing way different conversations than what we're hearing right now with who Boots is fighting. Your word and your actions aren't lining up, and when that don't happen, we have a problem. We boxing fans, we're not stupid. Fans of sports, we're not stupid. Well, and me personally, I don't try to overread into anything. I genuinely want to give the facts because that's what you people deserve. That's what I deserve. Because I'm a fan of this. I love this. Sports, basketball, football, all of it. Boxing, I love it. And this is what we gotta tell the story right. Because if we don't, people can get away with this stuff. And we can't let Boots get away. We can't let anybody get away with this. We can't. If it didn't happen because somebody held you back, that's different. But Boots, you had the opportunity and you didn't take it, and now you're fighting a 140-pounder, even somebody as great as Teofimo Lopez. That's not the track that you said you wanted to do. And because of that, it's a bold-face. It's a whole problem. In and of itself, I can't take it. But oh boy, see, we got comments galore. What do people got to say? It's a shame we can't get Tank versus. It's a shame we can't get Tank versus Teo instead. My gosh, it's a shame we couldn't get that. Are you kidding me? It's a shame that isn't the fight that we're getting. It's a bold face disappointment. It's an outright travesty that we ain't getting a fight like that. That should have been. Are you kidding me? The fact that fight ain't happening? And again, Teofimo Lopez called out those three people. He gave himself 3 fights at 3 different divisions that he wants. 130, 140, 147, and 154. The best at each division. That's what Teofimo Lopez did. And Tank, we need him to move up. He needs to move up because there's nothing else as of right now outside of Shakur Stevenson. There's nothing else for him. And if you're not going to fight him, then yes, go and achieve and fight at 140 because that's where you are expected now at this stage. That's what should be happening. In fact, that's not happening. It's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. It irks me, man. It irks me so much. It is terrible. Real deal. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for showing up. Sorry, I got on a rant. I'm so sorry. We were just I was going through it. I was hot. I still am hot and upset. I'm still going to give y'all entertainment. Absolutely. But I don't know it all. I'm just here trying to give you the best of my knowledge. And there's plenty of people that know more than me. Plenty of people that have more experience than me. Plenty of people that have more experience in the boxing realm than me. Understandable. But even still, we're looking at a situation where I can only give you what I learned. I don't know everything. Other people know more. I simply take from them, do research, and then make sure I'm validated. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But hopefully, either way, you're enjoying it. But I appreciate the kind words nonetheless. And then, let's see. Brian Norman Jr. would have been a great test at one. Yeah, that would have been great. That would have been phenomenal. Brian Norman could have been at 140 or at 154. Anybody at 154, even as an introductory level, would have been the proper step. If you felt you weren't ready for Virgil Ortiz yet, get either Brian Norman or a fodder opponent to go and ease your way into the division. And then, boom, take on the world after that. There were options. There still are options. But it ain't Hunter. It ain't happening. Joshua Hunter, appreciate you coming in and joining in on the show. I saw your comment. I just got into such a big rant. I wasn't able to really touch on to it. But yeah, man, everything I'm saying, hopefully I'm glad that you agree. Hopefully I'm right. But again, if I'm wrong, please tell me how you feel about it. But genuinely, this is just how I am. And it is preposterous. It's terrible. It is fluke. It's a fluke. It's a frustrating venture to watch people that we know can do so much more actively not. That's the whole thing. Just stick to what you said you were going to do. That's all we ask. When you do that, we have no problems. Joshua Hunter, I think Boots is a little drained at 147. I think he believes he can fight one more time, but wants more money for it, i.e. Teofimo Lopez. And that very well may be. And it is a money-making fight. Let's not get it. Let's understand that right now. On paper, that fight will sell. In the ring, that fight will sell. It is from a talent perspective. It's a competitive fight. It is. We are not saying that it is a bad fight if it does happen. We're saying for what we know Boots is supposed to do. This is not the fight that we're supposed to get. It's not. It's not supposed to be that you're bringing up Teo. It's supposed to be that you're either reigning or you're going up to 154 or you're unifying at your division right now and fighting people like Brian Norman Jr. Then if Teo gets up there on his own, after you kept to the words that you said you wanted to do, now we can have that conversation of, hey, this is a great fight and there's no qualms to be had. There is qualms in this because of your own words that you said you wanted for the plan. That's the thing. And let's be honest. If he took this fight later, because most likely Tank and Tio, that may not ever happen. I don't know what's going to happen with Tank. I don't. So let's say hypothetically that fight doesn't happen. Let's put that off the table. If it was a situation where Tio doesn't get Tank and he moves up and Boots stuck to his word and just beat Brian Norman Jr. and got belts at 147, we'd all be saying, my gosh, it's going to be an incredible fight. And we would have no qualms whatsoever. Everybody would be enjoying it. My gosh, we'd all be hyped up. We still are, if it happens. But objective to the fight itself, everything surrounding that is a major problem from my perspective. Because this isn't what you're supposed to do at this stage in your career right now. If you want more money, it would have sold. You become unified and then you get Tio coming up on his own to fight you as a unified champ. And that's your last fight before you move up to 154. Money. So much money. Phenomenal. But hey, that's just how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. And again, Birdie, yo, Mac, brother, appreciate you joining in on the show. Glad you're coming in on this live stream. Again, if you're not familiar, we're available every Tuesday and Thursday, almost every Tuesday and Thursday, on every podcasting platform imaginable that you can find, and also every episode right here on YouTube. Clips and whatnot right here on the channel. Podcasts, all in this show, all gets posted on Spotify, Google. I don't even think Google's going to do it no more. But Apple Podcasts, whatever major platform that you can find, we're here. And if we ain't there, tell us. We'll get there absolutely. But again, let's go Tio. If Tio can pull it out, my gosh, that would be an incredible thing. Now, I would pick Boots to be favored in that fight. But that's just me. That's because I think from a physical standpoint, it may be too much even for Tio to overcome. Though we know the talent of boxer that Teofimo Lopez indeed is. But it's an intriguing matchup. Very much intriguing. Especially with Tio training with Eddie Reynoso. Now, that Canelo-esque type style blended in with the ability and already prowess or already high prowess that we see Teofimo Lopez have at its disposal currently. Yeah, that could be a nightmare to deal with, potentially. And he's got the athletic ability. Oh, trust and believe. Power, speed, reaction, instincts, all of it. He's got it all, just like Boots. So from a fight perspective, oh, it's fun. Absolutely. But the greater context, it is a problem. It is a problem. We can't even though it's a good fight, this isn't what it's supposed to be. This is not what it's supposed to be for Boots. But hey, if you support Tio, absolutely. Let's see what happens. Let's see him try to pull out. Let's see him make history. Let's see him cause another potential upset, just like he did with Lomachenko. Nobody thought he was going to beat Lomachenko. But that turned out to be one of the best fights of the year and genuinely put his star on the map. Against, at that point in time, the best in the world. And if he can beat the best in the world in Lomachenko at that point in time, before age, but again, Boots, as big of a challenge as he is, don't be surprised if he can actually overcome it. It can't happen. But again, if it gets announced, if it goes through, we have a conversation. We can talk. We can talk a little bit more, get a little bit more in depth about that whole spiel. No doubt about it. But again, I want to hear from you all. Do you all think this is a good fight? Do you think this is a bad fight? Do you all think that this is what Boots is supposed to do? Objective of my opinion. How do you feel? I would love to hear that. Interact and conversate with you all. Because this is something that really has a lot of people either up in arms or everybody's looking forward to. One of the two is happening. And you can still look forward to it, just like I am, if it goes through. But the biggest thing is you got to make sure that if this isn't in line with what you said that you wanted on the whole of your boxing career, Tio's not going to get you closer to Terrence Crawford. He isn't. And if anything, don't let something happen to where Tio beats you. Now, you're taking a risk that shoot, Terrence Crawford may be out of your mirror or out of your front view forever at that point. Genuinely. I do mean that seriously. And so I hate it. I love the fight, but I hate the fight at the same time. Because it irks me. Irks me to my core. Again, comment your thoughts. Love to hear what you got to say about it all and how you feel about it. But real quick, one more topic I wanted to discuss. Well, two. One, Richard Hitchens versus Liam Poirier. If you saw that fight, if you saw that matchup, boom, you got to see Richard Hitchens get a title. The brother did it. Conquered the Subriel Matias conqueror in Liam Poirier. Brother was in with first couple rounds, was getting pieced up, was getting caught with the explosiveness of Liam Poirier. Actively couldn't get away from that straight shot or that straight punch that Liam Poirier was doing when he would lunge in on the inside. But as the fight went on, all of a sudden he was able to get the rhythm, able to get the timing, and started to be able to counter Poirier consistently. And Poirier had no answer for that jab. Later on in the fight, he looked like a sitting duck. He couldn't do anything. There was nothing he could do to adapt. And we thought he would adapt. I thought he would adapt. But he couldn't. And we saw Hitchens, by the end, cruise to a victory. Outbox, outclass, and outmatch him. Just overcome him outright. Whoever put up that 117, 112 scorecard on that card needs to be fired. Why is it every fight we have covered, almost every fight we on this show have watched, even on a live stream, going all the way back to the Inouye fight, the first live stream we had on the show. It's always one person being objectively bad. To a degree, it might have been because they wanted Liam Poirier versus George Kambosos for the title in Australia. That may have been why. Genuinely. But either way, it's a problem. But now we get to see he won. Outright he won. Hitchens deserved to win. Now, Hitchens, 140 champion. El Rayo, 140 champion. Devin Haney, still champion. Even though, again, stock has took a great hit. Phenomenal hit. Incredible hit. But still, he's a champion. And Teo's a champion. Teo may not be there for long. Landscape is changing at the division. And so we sooner rather than later, we're going to have find a real change to see who indeed is number one. Because the roulette wheel is spinning now. It really is. People are cycling in and out of the division. It's getting interesting. Oh, it's getting incredibly interesting. And so, we're looking at Hitchens real quick. Can he beat, or does he have opportunity to unify? Or is he going to be a one-reign champion? And to a degree, I think he'll be a one-reign champion. Because even though he did win, even though he did dominate and adapt, I wasn't impressed with him. I wasn't impressed with him against, was it Lemos? When he fought against Lemos and almost got knocked out a couple times? I wasn't. His boxing ability, it is fundamental, but it's basic. Now that can be a good thing, and it's never a bad thing, but it's not a great thing in this case scenario, because to a degree, outside of that jab and that straight right hand that doesn't have a whole lot of pop, doesn't have a whole lot of power, it's mostly just scoring, the brother, you can still overwhelm him. If you can get around that jab, you can definitely overwhelm him. You can definitely hurt him. You can definitely get to him. If you, in the adjustments that you need to make to Hitchens, it is something that is so, oh my gosh, hard to figure out. It's easier said than done, but if you get around that jab and are able to cut him off consistently and attack that body to make sure he can't use his legs and force him to fight, you can beat him, at least from what I see. And so with that being the case, going up against other boxers in that same division, I don't think he'll be there for long. I don't think he'll reign for long. I'm not hard on him, but I'm saying I just don't think it's going to happen. And if anything, if we saw Tank versus Hitchens, if that fight did happen, if he did move up to 140, finally, you couldn't tell me that you wouldn't take Tank to knock out Hitchens within 7. You couldn't. Because if you saw that performance, no, there's no way. None whatsoever. So I think he's going to be an incredibly short-range champion. Though, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying he ain't got talent. He does. It's just the fact that what he brings to the table, what he showed, wasn't something that really stood out as, oh my gosh. That's not bad. Everybody isn't shoot incredible, a one-in-one type figure, a one-of-one type talent. Everybody ain't there. But with Hitchens specifically, I was expecting a little bit more. I didn't see that, at least for me. So, that's just my opinion. But now let's delve into the other thing of boxing before we get to some NBA action. Let's talk about Canelo and Crawford real quick. Because here's what you need to understand. Turki Al-Sheikh can say that he's adamant that he wants to make that fight in 2025. Continually pushing to make that fight of Canelo versus Bud Crawford. Genuinely wants to make that a big attraction. Canelo say he doesn't want to do anything with Turki Al-Sheikh up until this point. As we know, Turkey's been putting everybody against everybody, talent versus talent. If you are going to lose, it's most likely going to be on his card because let's be perfectly honest, everybody is privy to potentially get pieced up because you're going up against somebody that's at or above your level. The matchmaking on all them cards have been incredible. Love to see Canelo get on that card. Would love to see him get on a card with David Benavidez as a main event in Mexico. My gosh. If that can be put together, that would be insane. Utterly ridiculous. But I digress. When it comes to Canelo and Crawford, that fight's being talked about. Turkey wants to make it. Let's ask the public something. Do you want to see that fight? Genuinely. I want to know. If you could comment down below. Do you want to see that fight? And I'm asking this, people may say, well, why are you asking this, Jean-Luc? This is one of the bigger fights if it does get announced. If it gets made, genuinely, it would be incredible. Everybody will be wanting to tune into that. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't want to see that fight happen? But I'm asking this for a reason. Do you want to see that fight? Because if you do, I understand why. I do as well. But if you look at the greater scape of boxing, like we always do you really think that Crawford has a great shot of winning that fight? And it's not because of Crawford's talent, but genuinely because of Crawford and that jump. Do you want to see it for the spectacle, or do you want to see it for the actual contest that can come about? And this is not me saying I don't think Crawford can win. This is not me saying I don't think that Canelo can dominate. It's me saying from a matchup perspective, does this fight really make sense? Should this be something that we're seeing actively happen? Because we just got on Tank fighting, again, Lamont Roach. We just got on Boots fighting Teofimo Lopez, bringing people up that you don't need to be in the ring with right now. Do we need to take a step back and really look at this and say, from an objective perspective, is this something that needs to happen for Canelo and Terrence Crawford? Would it be better to have it so that Canelo doesn't fight Teo and fights David Benavidez and then maybe makes another crack at 175 if he is successful? Or stays, ranks, and then waits for Crawford to at least get to 160 and then really look to make that fight happen? But right now, from 154 to 168, that is a huge jump. That with everything that we've been saying about all these other fighters, genuinely, is this a fight that we really want to see happen? With that big of a weight discrepancy that we get on, again, Tank, Boots, and other fighters who bring up people that at the stage that you are, there's no point. For real. And I would love to hear your opinion. Because there's an argument that now it shouldn't happen. There's an argument. There's a big argument that that fight shouldn't happen at all. There's a huge argument saying that that fight is something that is only a spectacle and not genuinely quality combat sport level. Quality boxing due to that much of a weight discrepancy. Due to that much of a size difference. Due to that much of a power, literal power scaling. It's not the same. It isn't. And so is there an argument for that fight shouldn't happen? Now, that's me playing devil's advocate. The reality of the situation is that with this fight with Canelo and Terence Crawford, if it does transpire, this is a situation where it does make sense for it to happen. Not because of, they're close in weight, but because there's only a few people that genuinely would have the ability to say, yes, he is one of those people that can do this and be successful. And it's like, that's it. Terence Crawford is arguably the only person outside of Noya anyway who could make these big jumps and it be, we have no doubt he would be competitive. We have no doubt he would be able to not just make weight comfortably, but dominate still at the same level that he's dominating right now. Unless we see differently. There is nothing we need to say in terms of questioning him. Genuinely. That's the viewpoint of Terence Crawford. And so because of that, hey, again, like with Teo, for him, yes. For Canelo, even though he can take this fight, even though this fight will be one of the biggest moneymakers, one of the biggest fights of the year, if it does happen, it's not something that Canelo needs to happen, but it's something we still want to see. That's the bold-faced point of it. Canelo's somebody that we want to see fight Terence Crawford just because, one, the spectacle is too much for us not to ignore. Two, Terence Crawford's one of the few people that if he did choose to do this, we would have more confidence in him than almost anybody else in boxing. That you could do this, make weight, be just as dominant as you are right now, and put on a fight that you could actually win. That's it. How much confidence, that's for each individual person. But nobody could say, it's not possible. With Crawford, yeah, it's possible. More than possible. And so hence we can have that level of, hey, if this fight happens, we're cool with it. Even though we want to see Canelo fight David Benavidez, even though we want to see Canelo fight the best at his own division, even though, again, he's already cleaned out the division, understandable. But even though we want to see Canelo fight the only person that is actually in his wheelhouse, both in talent and in size, and David Benavidez, if this fight were to happen only because of Terence Crawford, we want to see it. And that's the biggest thing, more than anything. Because of Terence Crawford, we want to see it. Not because of Canelo. Because even though Canelo is the big bag trying to be defeated, we want to see Crawford achieve the greatness. See if he can actually accomplish this big feat. Not Canelo beating up on somebody that is, again, just like with Jamal Charlo, incredibly undersized and may not be able to bring a fight. But Crawford could turn it all around. That's the only reason. Because of if he can pull this off. That's why I want to see this fight. But let's see. We got more people coming up in the chat. Let's see. Gervonta is scared to move up in other weight categories. Well, I don't understand. Yes. Let's be perfectly honest. This comment right here, is something that we have to question. Is he scared of anybody? When it comes to Gervonta St. Davis and moving up, is he scared of the comp at higher weights? Or is it genuinely that he just doesn't want to do it? Is it fear or is it just his own MO? We covered this on the last show. We talked about how Tank genuinely lost the love of the sport, seemingly. He said he wants to retire early, said he wants to end his career before boxing leaves him, said he wants to be able to go on an island with all his money and do nothing else. We talked about this on the last show. You can go look it up. Absolutely. But when it comes to the reasoning, we genuinely don't know. We genuinely don't know. We can only speculate. Now, what I speculate is that the brother, he may have all the confidence that he can beat anybody at 154. But why he's not taking the initiative, I have no clue. But it makes us question, is that confidence really as concrete as we thought it may be? Because we, on the outside looking in, we see him outside of Teofimo Lopez, most likely he can beat anybody at 140. I've said routinely he can fight at 147 and beat anybody. Dominate. He could get up to welterweight and still be dominant. Absolutely. I've said that. Everybody agrees, most people agree with it. He's got that level of ability. But it's internally, do you want to take that risk? Do you want to step up to that plate? Do you want to step up and make that change? Do you, as a boxer and as a fighter, want to indeed make that statement for yourself? Or do you not? Because if you don't, well, your legacy is going to take a hit, and we will then hold you in a different level, in different esteem. And even if maybe he's scared, maybe he's just content, maybe he genuinely isn't comfortable. Even though he already moved up to 140, so fighting at 140 seems like a perfectly logical option. So everything, from my perspective, looks like the brother can fight. Looks like the brother should fight at 140. And the last thing is he will fight at 140, but I can't say that because when he's got the opportunity, he hasn't done it. And it looks like he won't do it at all. Now, even with Teofimo Lopez directly calling him out, if this negotiation doesn't go through with Teo and Boots and him and Tank genuinely get into a negotiation, will that fight happen? Will that actually transpire? Teofimo Lopez versus Tank if Boots and Teo doesn't work out. That fight, hey, there's nothing wrong with that fight. Now we're talking about a mega event everybody will want to pay to see. Oh, gosh. That would be insane for next year. Insane if that happens next year. On top of the B-Roll Better BF card, on top of David Benavidez versus David Morrell, we get Teo and Tank to fight against each other for the 140-pound title? Are you kidding me? That would be ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. We would love to see that happen. Will it? It's up to Tank. And now, if we've been perfectly honest, let's talk about it right now. If Tank doesn't take that fight with Teo, if those negotiations come through, after being called out by Teo, after saying that he wants to get in the ring with Teo, because mind you, he's the one that said that first. Tank said that he wanted to slap Teo. Tank said he wanted to slap them, or rather, more specifically, Tank said he's the one that wanted to slap the out of him. That's what he said he wanted to do. He said he wanted to slap the mess out of him. He said that he wanted to slap the you-know-what out of Teo. He said when he sees him first face up, he'll slap him. He wants to beat him up. He wants to knock him out. That's what Tank said. After that, then what we saw last week, and weeks after that statement, or days after that statement, Teo comes up. He talks about Tank as well in other short interviews and other recordings with people like Fight Hype and others. I believe it was Fight Hype. Some other boxing covering promotion. Then goes on national television and calls him out directly. So, if anything, if we want to indeed say if somebody's scared or not, Tank's fear, if he's scared to fight at the higher divisions or not, is going to be really tested after this fight with Lamont Roach. Because what did we say on the last show? If we don't see, where's my thing? If we don't see him call out Teofimo Lopez or Shakur Stevenson in the next post-fight press conference or post-fight interview, like he said he's going to call somebody out, and he said he's never called somebody out before, which he hasn't. He doesn't do that. He doesn't fight at 140 against Teo after both of you said that you want each other, after all of us are saying, yes, that's a fight to make, and that there is no qualms with it on either end. You make that fight happen. Okay, you weren't scared. Now we have a different argument. Maybe the money wasn't right. Maybe the money wasn't big enough. Maybe now you're finally going after the legacy now that your career is starting to wind down. Genuinely, you have a year left. It's now or never to make these fights happen. Are you going to do it or not? Everybody's in their prime. You are in your prime. If you don't make it fight happen now, you're never, like, it is what it is at that point. This is your last opportunity. You do it, no problem. But if you don't call out these people, if you don't call out Teo, if you don't call out Shakur even, but specifically for the sake of conversation, if you don't call out Teo, who called you out also, who you all have gone back and forth in separate entities and interviews, then we can say, yeah, I think he was just scared of legitimate competition. After fighting Barrios at 140, was scared of what's going to happen when he fights against other greats at that same division. We can have that conversation, genuinely. But if it doesn't happen. If it does happen, great. Now we can have, well, maybe it's because the names that he wanted to fight at 140 just weren't big enough. Even though that's stupid, because you still had Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and others. Or a litany of other things. And do I genuinely think that Tank is scared? No. No, I don't. Neither should you. You see the outright confidence. Like, we shouldn't be questioning this. And I truly don't believe that that's the case. But what you show and what you are, they got to match up. They have to match up. We call Oscar Valdez a warrior. We saw the war that he went through with Navarrete the first time. We saw the impact that the loss had on him this time. But we saw this brother legitimately made every change possible to try to make this fight better. And still, that body shot genuinely took that brother out. He wanted to get up so bad. You could see it on his face, and he couldn't. But we've seen time and time again, the man is willing to sacrifice unless it gets taken out of him. The brother will not quit. The brother will not relent unless he's forced to. Navarrete forced him to relent. But he's still an ultimate warrior. Because even until his last breath in terms of inside the ring, being able to get up to the count of 10, he kept on fighting to try. And we've seen that throughout his entire career. Never quit, never surrender. This is what he does. And his actions back up his ability. His actions back up his genuine talent and makeup. His actions back up who he is. Tank, his actions don't back up who he is or who he says that he is. He wins, dominates, great boxer, no question there. But in terms of competition level, we can still say, hey, I don't think he's scared. But when we look at what he's doing, it bodes a different question, gives a different conversation, makes us have to say, you can say you're not scared. We can even internally believe that you aren't scared. But when we look at what's going on and the track record that's been done ever since you talked about not being scared, something's not lining up. And the only thing to say is that maybe you indeed are. We have to at least ask that question. Minimum. We have to at least ask that question. And so, it is what it is. Sadly, it is what it is. If he changes our mind, changes our perspective, you have no problem. But until he shows us something, even if you don't believe it, you've got to at least ask the question. And until that question gets answered, it's forever going to stay. It is forever going to stay. But this fight and these next 3 fights, or these next 2 fights after Lamont Roach, are the most important fights of Tank's career. Said that before, I'm saying that now. The decisions that he makes now are going to perpetuate what he's going to be viewed as for the rest of his career. Most likely. At least from what my vantage point looks like. But if you have a different opinion, absolutely, no problem there. I'm simply giving you my 2 cents on the matter. But as we quickly, and I do mean very quickly, delve into the world of the NBA as we switch from boxing real quick, one of the things we have to discuss in the NBA is the MVP race. That's like we're roughly 20 or so games into the season, talking about what's going on in the greater scheme of basketball, specifically the MVP race, which has been, ironically enough, with the season being one of the more, we'll say, lulled about seasons in NBA history in terms of fans are losing interest. We talked about people aren't tuning into games. People don't seem to care about the product or the sport as a whole. We've covered a plethora of things that may be the reason why in a past episode. You can go back and look at it right now. Absolutely. But the biggest thing is, when it comes to the NBA, even though people may not be paying as much attention to it, it is still one of the more hotly contested MVP races that we've had in basketball history, with the two being Jokic and Gannis. Gannis, again, with the Bucks at one point in time being 1-6 or 2-6 on the year, tied for worst in the East, a bad Eastern Conference this year, in a situation where they looked like, hey, Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham are going to be the thing to take them down. They're going to be the captains of the ship that drive them asunder. Now, all of a sudden, they're back in the saddle. They're back in the range. Giannis is leading his team to 11 to a essentially 12-11 win-loss record situation where they were normally we didn't think they would get to 500 at all. And this is with injuries and whatnot still plaguing the team as a whole, with Chris Middleton not out, and the Bullets averaging genuinely 32 points, almost a block and a half a game, 6 assists and 11 rebounds. So essentially 30, or we rounding up, 33, a block to 6 assists and 11 rebounds. Incredible. Stupid. It's phenomenal. This is the arguably, this is the best Giannis we've seen play in his career. Carrying this squad, objectively dragging this team when it seems like all hope is lost, to fight for a spot in the playoffs for this year. And individually, Bud has been playing out of his mind. Has become elite, or not, he's always been elite, but has elevated his status as an elite caliber player, has become a mid-range shooter, which is something we thought would never happen. We were saying if he ever gets a jump shot, that man is going to be one of the scariest people in the NBA, and we see that right now. Behind DeMar DeRozan, the Bud is one of the most efficient, or rather, actually, arguably, he's the most efficient mid-range shooter in the NBA right now, even above the best mid-range shooter right now in DeMar DeRozan. And we've seen this brother doing pull-ups, one dribble stops, step back, well, not step backs, but essentially sides ups from the free throw line into a jumper, and it's automatic now, or at least it seems like, oh, he's got it. He's expanded his range beyond just being dominant within 0 to 6 feet. Are you kidding me? This is the best Giannis that we have seen this year or in his career as a whole. And even with all that being said, he still isn't the best player in the world. Because the best player in the world right now is still unequivocally Nikola Jokic. The Joker himself, the utter menace of man. That is Nikola Jokic. That brother genuinely is the most dominant presence that we have in basketball today. There is no question in my mind. He is the most consistent, dominant player that is in today's game. Objective. Like there is no comparison. Even still, even with this team, and mind you, Denver's been struggling. Denver's 12-10. Denver ain't playing great at all. The core seems to be losing its luster, and chemistry seems to be off. We got people like Jamal Murray playing under level, and AG, Aaron Gordon, not playing well, and the chemistry of the team as a whole not being cohesive. They don't want to go to huddles and win free throws and timeouts. They don't have the same level of communication that they used to have. The chemistry of knowing what to do without having to say a word ain't there anymore. There is something that's missing with this Nugget squad. But even with all of those problems, even with this all-stars not playing like all-stars, even with this great team that won them a title, that made them continually one of the best teams in the West, constantly a threat to anybody, and a championship level squad surrounding Jokic, even with all of them playing below the level, Jokic is still averaging on the year 32 points, 10 assists, and 13, but is averaging a triple-double as a center. And he's leading, I believe, he's leading the league in assists, if not third outright, which again is preposterous. He's averaging 32, 13, and 10 rounding up 32, 14, and 10 on the year, shooting 50% from every facet of the field. Literally, 50% from the field, 50% from three, and 80% from the line. A nearly 50-50-90 season. Ridiculous. That's preposterous. That's insane. He's taking more shots than anybody else on the team. This is the best Jokic we have ever seen in basketball. There is no question. This is the best version of Jokic, who's been dominating the entire league for who knows how long. This is the best player in the world. There is no equal. There is nobody that comes close to this level of talent, production, offensive efficiency, legitimate playmaking ability, and just a hub of being the most reliable player. There is no equal. If anybody has anything to say about record or otherwise, you can make an argument. You can make an argument for Jason Tatum. You can definitely make an argument for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No problem. They're averaging 29, 6 and 8 on the year, leading the OKC squad to an incredible, I do mean incredible level of production and chemistry. That OKC squad is looking to go for a title. Mark my words. Let's say they actually make a move this season to somehow, not even somehow, because they got the draft stock to do it, get one more pick in this draft, or get one more pick that they can trade. Or excuse me, talking too fast. They trade a lot of their picks for another big time star because they got the ability to. Shoot, everybody's scared of this team. Everybody's scared of the squad. Everybody is concerned for what OKC brings to the table. That's what we're dealing with. But when it comes to, even with all those arguments, everything, what do you want to have Jason Tatum because of his record with the Celtics in the East and his individual production? All of them fall short of the genuine, mind-boggling ability that we see from Nikola Jokic and the utter disregard for the game, for how he approaches it, but the utter perfection that he plays when he goes and plays. It's ridiculous. There's nobody in the world better than him. None. He's gotten better defensively. And offensively, he's elevated himself to a level that nobody's able to reach. There is a genuine argument. This man's he's going to win his fourth MVP? 4 in 5 years? Should be back to back to back. Being completely honest. And if we're being really honest, the Butler he should be the first to win 4 in a row based on how he's playing right now. And voter fatigue may be the only thing that nixes this man from getting the accolades that he deserves. That's a problem. Just like with LeBron. We don't need to let voter fatigue cloud us from giving the just due and just respect to the people that deserve it. And with Jokic right now, that brother deserves it. That brother deserves it more than anybody. That man is a bona fide bucket. More than a bona fide bucket. He's the best in the world. There is nobody better than Nikola Jokic. He will go down, most likely, as the most offensively gifted center that this game has ever seen. I almost guarantee you. There will be nobody that can compare to the offensive level that we see from Nikola Jokic right now. Arguably the best passer in the game. One of the top rebounders in the game. And one of the best scorers. Do you understand that? He's on par with leading the league in scoring and assists and rebounds. That's preposterous. That would be ridiculous. That would be insane. But it's possible. And if it does happen, if this trend continues, my gosh, we're going to start putting Jokic in some serious conversations. Let him get this 4th MVP, which he deserves as of right now. I promise you we're going to have conversations about the center position and about all-time rankings. Because what we're seeing from Jokic is something we've never seen from a center and from very few in basketball history. This is one of the best peaks we've seen in basketball history, outright. If this keeps going, it's gonna be insane. It's gonna be insane. Insane. My gosh. And I promise you, people ain't gonna like the conversations. But we're gonna have some conversations. Because Jokic is quickly, I do mean quickly, rising up the ranks of one of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball. All while he doesn't care, which is insane, which is ridiculous. But with all that being said, now we're at the last part of the show. We are in the championship rounds. Oh, yes, indeed. Everybody, we're here. Now I've covered everything I need to cover on my end of the show. It is on you. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to say? What do you want to discuss? Leave your own comments and descriptions in the show below. Let us know what you want to have. What do you want to talk about? What questions do you have? What comments or concerns? What debates do you want to discuss? We can talk about Ramirez and Espinoza and how essentially I believe Ramirez quit because what we thought was an elbow maybe wasn't an elbow. And we're looking at him after a fight of the year last time round. All of a sudden now it ends on a whimper. And then what we saw Oscar Valdez do that very next fight, shoot, has us questioning where's your warrior spirit? It's a very unique conversation. We can talk about that. We can talk about other stuff in the NBA. We can talk about stuff in boxing. We can talk about, who's y'all's pound for pound top 10? Do you think Inoue is going to be able to fight or beat Sam Goodman? Will Inoue inevitably fight Tank down the line? We have so many topics in discussion. The floor is yours for you to delve into, discuss, and say at your leisure. And speaking of which, while we're saving some time, if while we're waiting on comments, and again, Mac, appreciate you and the support and the comments that you leaving. Yeah, hey, if you talk about Jokic, you might have the wrong skin color. But if you talk about me as a King Muscle 100, appreciate it. Thank you for the support, regardless of which. And I'm glad you stuck around and are listening to the show. Greatly much appreciate it, absolutely. But again, floor is you all, whatever you want to say. But real quick, while we wait on your comments, let's talk about Inoue, shall we? One of the staples of this channel, one of the staples of boxing as a whole, one of the biggest stars in this sport unequivocally, and my pound for pound best in the world. Up and coming on December 24th, in Christmas Eve. Oh, yes, indeed. We're getting Inoue versus Sam Goodman. And essentially, what we perceive as a dominating performance is something that, hey, we were excited to watch it. Excited to see him potentially get another knockout. Excited to see the flash and flurry and the outright near perfection that anyone brings on a night-to-night basis. But let's be frank. Because of who Sam Goodman is in the eyes of the public, does he need to have an outright whitewashing performance? In terms of if it doesn't end in knockout, it's a problem. Genuinely. Give me for 1 second. Yep. Yeah, coffee got cold, but it's still good. But genuine, when we talk about Inoue, with who we know for Sam Goodman, which isn't as, again, he's still a top 5 talent in the division from what I remember from the rankings. Even though he's at the more bottom rung, regardless of which. Dude, at this stage in his career, and it's a question for other great fighters, is there a situation where if you don't have an expected performance, now it's held against you? And with Inoue, it was going to be held against him with Lewis Neary, but then inevitably we saw what happened when he got knocked down, got back up, and really turned it on. A phenomenal display. But now if we see Inoue at this stage, with the conversation that's being talked about right now, with him now more so concretely in pound-for-pound discussions throughout the entirety of the boxing world, and in the U.S. specifically, his stock rising more and more and more in the eyes of the public, with people like Tank talking about him, Terrence Crawford talking about him, and other great fighters all coming to his fights, or at least staying up to watch his fights. With the notoriety getting elevated more and more, are we at a situation now where anything less than a knockout is going to be seen as a problem? Genuine. Do you think that we're looking at Inoue who is, if it doesn't end in a dominating KO, people are going to say you're not as great as you say that you are? Now I'm talking about like big swaths of people, not just small pockets of fans or haters or doubters or just trolls outright. That's a genuine conversation. And with Sam Goodman, this is a prime objective. This is a prime staple to see if that does bode true. Now, for me, you don't need a knockout to be as dominant as everybody says that you are. You don't need to end every fight in a KO to still be seen as the top in the world, as the best in the world, as your talent being validated. Sometimes people are just genuinely too tough. Sometimes people are just genuinely too much in terms of grit and determination to go down. In some situations, the corner lets the fight go on when it really should be stopped. But because of the fighter's heart, they will keep on getting up. There's a lot of situations where that can be the case. But still outclassing the opponent comes about. But that gets held against them because this type of quote-unquote fodder, quote-unquote lower level competition, why are they not on the mat? Why are they not in it? Why did you not get them out in 3 or 4 rounds? Why are they not in a situation where they are on the floor with the greatest of ease and you're standing over them as if you didn't break a sweat? Where is that? That's what people may be saying. Genuine. And it's going to be, and so when you and it's a thing that you need if you are a fan of the sport. Just be on the lookout for that. Because I guarantee you, we know how good Inoue is. We on this channel understand how great this brother is on the path to become. We on this channel have said countless times how much Inoue has to give to this sport, and truly that he can be one of the greatest of all time. As in top 10. He's genuinely on a track to be one of the best we've ever seen in this sport. Reach the heights that we never got to see Salvador Sanchez reach. And even then, with where Salvador Sanchez is right now, with him sadly passing away at 23, it was still, that brother had so much ways to go. But it's hard for anybody to really eclipse him even now. But when it comes to anyway, that brother is on that track and may be able to actually eclipse it and be something that we haven't seen again since, maybe since Roy or since Pacquiao. A level of constant elevated domination every time he goes out. There is a different air of dominance that he has that no other boxer in this sport has. We understand wholeheartedly how great Inoue is. But I guarantee you, with stardom comes scrutiny. With stardom comes an elevated level of microscopic onlooking from the public. More specifically, from people that are fans of a fighter rather than the sport. That can lead to people truly invalidating exactly what they bring to the table. And so, because of that, it can be a major problem. And hey, Jesus Valenzuela. Hey, Jesus Valenzuela. Brother, how you doing? Appreciate you coming in and joining in on the show. We right here on the show. We're at the tail end of the segment, and we're at the situation now. You can go back and watch everything we talked about. We talked about Boots, Ennis, and T.O. We talked about Richardson, Hitchens, and Liam Poirot. We talked about a bunch of stuff with Boots fighting T.O. and not fighting Virgil Ortiz, Tank and Teofimo Lopez. We got a whole bunch of stuff we discussed, but now the floor is anybody's. This is the championship rounds. Yes, indeed. We're at the last segment of the show. New segment I just came up with. It is you all's floor. What do you all like to say? This is a fan-led question, a viewership-led question. Whatever things you want to talk about, questions, debates, comments, concerns, let's see what you got going on and what would you like to discuss. Absolutely. We'll bring it up on the right here on the last segments of the show. And real quick, let's see what you got. Navarrete versus Oscar. Well, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy how dominant Navarrete handled Oscar Valdez. But really it shouldn't be, because like I said earlier, Navarrete and Oscar Valdez is like George Foreman and Joe Frazier. They just fit the best of fits for Navarrete and the worst of fits for Oscar Valdez. The matchups and stylistically, it was just a nightmare. And Oscar Valdez made the changes that he needed to be made to make himself or put himself in the best situation to actually get a win from the dominating performance of the last fight. He used his jab and straight right punches to get on the inside and actually score against Navarrete. He stood his ground instead of letting Navarrete come in with momentum. He met Navarrete when he was coming forward to stop said momentum. He wasn't looking to counter as much, but was also looking to put his own offensive volume to give Navarrete something to have to worry about at minimum. He did everything I wanted him to do, but the brother just isn't made to beat somebody like Navarrete. Oscar Valdez is a warrior at heart. Didn't quit until a body shot forced him to quit. He just couldn't get up. His body couldn't react. You know what a shot to the body does to an opponent. If you get hit right, brother, you ain't getting up. Even if you're the greatest of warriors, it's a different type of heart that it takes to get up from a good body shot. And that was a great body shot that Navarrete gave to Oscar Valdez. And so when it came to Oscar and Navarrete, he just can't beat him. It's one of those people that he just can't beat. He can't get him, no matter how hard he tries. And it's not because he isn't great. He is great. He is an incredible warrior. We respect him to kingdom come. Only people that he's lost to are Navarrete and Shakur Stevens. So he's got the talent. And I want to see him in the ring again. But this is just an opponent he just can't get over. It's a hump that he can't overcome. It's a style that is just too much for him. And credit to Navarrete. The brother started out slow and looked like he wasn't going to be able to do anything. Navarrete looked like he wasn't going to be able to actively pull the trigger. And so even after the round one knockdown, due to the fact that he looked slow, sluggish, and seemingly wasn't nearly as sharp as he was the first couple fights around. But brother, once that engine got rolling after round two, my gosh, it turned into just a slugfest. Just an outright dominating performance on the side of Navarrete. And I'm telling you, the more he fights, the more, I may not like his style, but brother, he is becoming hotly and quickly one of the more exciting fighters that we have in this sport. Now, 135, I want to see him fight people like Shakur. I gotta see it. I gotta see what he can do against somebody like a Shakur Stevenson. You may say that he's better. I think Shakur is better, absolutely. But that style is so different and it's so unique. It makes us look at him. And if you pitted him against even the best of the best at 135, the brother, he can give anybody trouble. Even if he doesn't win. I would love to see how Shakur would handle that level of unpredictability and length and toughness and chin and legitimate power and stamina. Because even if his technique isn't great, brother, his punches sweep the floor. Everything just seems long but weighty. It's ridiculous. And it's like he should be beaten. He's got a style that it looks like he should be knocked out. He should be in a situation where he gets beat, he gets caught, he gets cracked, and he gets done away with. But he just keeps on winning. And I may not like the style, but the production speaks for itself. It works. And it works out dominantly, incredibly dominantly, for anybody that goes and fights against him. But let's see what people got to say. Oscar has never changed. Yeah, he hasn't changed. Leaning forward on for the uppercuts and hardly went to the body for Navarrete's weak stomach. And he did go to the body early on, or at least attempted to. The biggest thing, even objective to the body, was the fact that even with Oscar being Oscar, he's not going to change his style. He was having success both in this fight and in the last fight, throwing the straight right and using his straight punches, jabs, and straights in the first fight and in the second fight to get and score on Navarrete. It was working. Indeed, it was. The problem is when he did get in range with those shots, he kept missing his hooks. And either they got blocked or they just missed outright because it was still out of range. If we had seen Oscar Valdez use that straight right more than anything in his combinations when he was not only working his way in, but also once he got in, instead of dedicating himself to throwing hooks, we could have seen at least more offensive success. Not saying he would have won. We could have seen more offensive success from him. We could have seen a more substantial level of significant offensive firepower that would have at least made Navarrete have to adapt somewhat, rather than understanding that, hey, once he gets on the inside, all I got to do is lean back slightly, and I'm safe again. And that's exactly what happened. But if we had seen Oscar Valdez use that straight right on the inside, rather than just when he was working his way on the inside, then we might have seen at least a more competitive fight, though it was indeed competitive. Don't get me wrong. It was still an incredible fight. Two warriors going at it. No heart was lost. It was just taken away by Navarrete. But he still showed, I'm still a warrior. No question. No, we give all respect to Oscar Valdez. There is no disrespect given to Oscar Valdez for losing. It's just the fact that this is just a bad matchup. It's just a bad matchup to go against. It's a bad matchup to face off against. And even though he did almost everything to change his style, or at least change his approach for the better, he just can't beat him. He just can't beat him. Navarrete is just a style that's just too much for him to actively get over the hump with. As much as we may not like it, it's the truth. He just can't get over that hump. Navarrete is he is his Achilles heel. He is his who was the brother? I know my mythology, my Greek mythology. The brother who pushing a rock up a hill. He's his rock. Can't think of his name. It's not Hephaestus. It's I can't think of his name. But you know what I mean. The brother in Greek mythology, cursed by Zeus to push a rock up a hill for all eternity. He is that rock. He just can't push it over. He can't get it up the hill because he is just stylistically a nightmare for Oscar Valdez. Just like George Foreman was to Joe Frazier. And I hate that because Joe Frazier is my favorite fighter. Joe Frazier only lost to Ali and Foreman. That's it. The brother genuinely would have beaten, just like I said earlier, most anybody. He was incredible. But there's just some people that you just couldn't beat. George Foreman for Joe Frazier was that opponent. And for Oscar Valdez, it's Navarrete, unequivocally. And so now I just want to see Navarrete. Where is he going to go now? I want to see what's next for Navarrete. That's all. That's really it. My dream match for Navarrete, him versus Shakur. That's my dream fight. Just because of the stylistic approaches are just so contrary to each other. One's technically sound, tight, crisp, and for all intents and purposes, one of the best boxers in the world, versus somebody whose technique looks like it's thrown out the window. And it's just literal power and momentum personified. The juggernaut. Who's going to win? Technical expertise and refinement versus unpredictable power. It's a match made in heaven in terms of stylistically. I would love to see that fight. Oh gosh, I'd love to see that. But hey, we just have to wait and see. But again, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? Any other discussions? Any other questions? Comments? Concerns? The floor is yours. I've covered everything I need to cover. Anything you all want to say, to question, or to have a debate with, or as a new topic, whatever you want to do. It's all up to you. Dream matchups you want to discuss? We talked about Roy Jones Jr. and Marvin Hagler. Is there any other dream matchup you want my opinion on? Or you want to debate in the comments with? You want to talk about Tank and how now, who could be his next two opponents? Who should be his next two opponents? The outcome of Tyson Fury versus Usyk happening on December 21st. Oh my. There's a bunch of stuff we can discuss. But if everybody's got everything they want to say, hey, we ain't going to push the issue. We're going to end it right here. So, if everybody's all set and well and good, I have esteemed to say this has been a phenomenal show. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show, taking time out of your day in the afternoon to sit with me, discuss the wiles and whimsy of boxing and basketball and everything in between. Absolutely. Also, Cowboys, I'm sorry y'all lost. That was a heartbreaker. Hopefully y'all will get it done next time around. Hopefully y'all will still have an opportunity to get to the playoffs as the season's starting to wind down. Hey, get your stuff up now. What's going on? A muff punt, essentially after a block punt, essentially get y'all in. Hey, I'm sorry. Hopefully y'all will do better. But either way, we got all that and more that we can talk about next week, or rather on Thursday. We'll be right back here. I've been Jean-Luc Welch. At 12 o'clock, we'll be right back here for another episode. I've been Jean-Luc Welch. Y'all have been wonderful. Peace and love. We are out of here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We done. Oh yeah. Have your fun. Have your afternoon. Enjoy your time. We'll be back on Thursday covering more stuff in the sports world, breaking down fights, giving predictions, giving analysis, and all the while having fun with you all while we do it. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for staying around. And we will be back on Thursday for another jam-packed show. Oh, yes, indeed.